Hey there, how's it going? I've been involved in a lot of adventure sports over the years. Things that many people would consider to be dangerous activities if you just don't know any better. Um, just thought I could make a video about what my actual thoughts are on these things. I've got a good 30 years worth of dangerous activities. So what were my expectations going into them? What did it cost to start it? How much training did you need? And is it really actually that dangerous at all? This could be interesting. Why not? All right, I don't really know where to start with this topic, so I figured I would just go back to the early years, my teens. Easy to pick skateboards. Didn't really know what I was getting into on this one. I was kind of being led in by some friends, and honestly, $200 to get into it, modern cost probably. All I need is a board. You got to have a helmet. That's about it. Why do I have a pile of boards? Well, that's where this story gets interesting, because to be honest, skateboarding wasn't really that fun. It's kind of it's a fun way to kill time. Go to a skate park, hurt yourself a whole bunch. It's a lot of practice to get really good at it. So if you got a lot of time to kill and you really care about being good, that's what's good about it. For me, I'm not really into that. I like adventure sports. I like to go somewhere and experience. And so what I liked about skateboarding was actually making skateboards. I spent a good 2 years figuring out how to make my own skateboards. I actually sold them at the farmer's market once upon a time. And so, just an example, nice little collection of my Skittle colors. I mean, these boards are over 20 years old. Nobody really liked them to begin with, but I had fun making them. That was what mattered. And I actually learned a lot about manufacturing processes doing that. But that's what was fun about skateboarding. So for me, that part wasn't dangerous. Making them was not dangerous. But the actual sport of skateboarding, risk and reward was pretty low to me. I didn't really enjoy the reward, and the risk just wasn't worth it. I did get some scars on my face from, hitting the coping a few times. But I would put skateboarding as a nice little medium danger. Oh, I also broke my hand once. It's about the only bone I ever broke was skateboarding. So it's at least medium danger right there. But the cost is very low. Hi.
Why are you recording me?
Well, next up, I've already got the board experience. Been on a skateboard a few years. Might as well go straight to snowboarding. Skis came later. I actually only got those a couple of years ago to train my daughter. But nonetheless, snowboarding is what came next. And now this I would consider to be a very high reward. Pretty low risk, to be honest. I've never been truly hurt snowboarding. The only exception was when I first started, and I had a lot of bad tumbles. Trying to do black diamonds in my first day, basically. That's a different story. Everybody knows the problem with ski and snowboards, though. It's expensive. I mean, you got to have the board first. You got to have your jacket. You got to have your boots. You got to have your pants. You got to have gloves. Shoot, nowadays you even got to have a helmet. And then there's the cost, I should say, of getting there. Every trip's expensive. I mean, where we're at, most ski and snow places are about 2 hours away. You can get there about an hour and a half sometimes, but you're going to be on average for one person about $100 a trip. Take the whole family up and it gets into $300, $400 range, and you might even want to just get a hotel. So yeah, it adds up pretty quickly. I don't think I would say it's the most expensive sport because it's seasonal. I only go 4 times a year still, but I'm still doing that. I do think that it's high reward, and honestly, it's pretty low risk. I mean, you can get hurt seriously doing it, but if you're keeping it cool and just staying moderate, doing your blue runs, not trying to be the next Shaun White, nothing like that. I really recommend skiing and snowboards. Of course, one question one might have about that, I said I'd talk about this, is how much training does it take to get good at snowboarding or skiing? Both are different courses. The old adage is skiing's easier to start, harder to master, and snowboards are hard to start but easy to master. And I'll agree with that. On average, I think it takes about 5 trips to get good at either one of them. And you might want a lesson. I wouldn't deny that advice. But yeah, easy to start, and they're high reward, moderate cost, low risk. That's my experience, my opinion of skiing and snowboard. Obviously, there's 1,000 years of history behind that sport, and yeah, anyways. Get nice and slow into the skinny. Swing early. And going and going and going and going. Booyah! That's how you do the skinny. This is a skinny with higher consequences. You know? I'm not going to do it, but this is what it looks like on the GoPro. If you were doing the more difficult skinny, you're just cruising along here on the skinny. My tire fell off, even though I'm faking it. It's all good. Still falling off. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. That's what it looks like if you actually go across the skinny of doom. All right, and the next hobby needs no introduction. We all learned this when we were kids. Just go on the street, get yourself a mountain bike. Right there. This is a controversial topic these days because a lot of mountain bikes are $10,000 plus. You don't need one of those. This has been the best bike I've ever owned, and I only got it probably 5 or 6 years ago. It's just a, we'll call it a hardtail. I mean, it's a high performance hardtail nowadays. All you need is a helmet. That's it. Well, I'm a mountain biker now. Total cost of getting this for me is about, we'll say $800 these days. You can go lower, but the life lesson that took me way too long to figure out was that a nice entry-level mountain bike, like as in from an actual mountain bike company that makes good ones, you want to pay about $700. Just believe me, for me the issue in life was with mountain biking was always climbing hills. And I don't know what it is with this old school Scott that I got here, but that first gear that I've got, it's like a mountain, like a billy goat. I go up any hill and it's actually fun. You don't need an e-bike. You just need a good bike that can climb hills properly. And it's got some nice front suspension and figure it out from there. Mountain biking, I would say it's at least medium reward. Depends what kind of trails you have in your local area. I love going to local bike parks. You know, nowadays they've got wooden obstacles all over the place. You've got pump tracks. You've got, you know, it's a lot of fun. You know, skinnies, you don't have to even go far half the time. It's like a skate park, but for bikes. And that's really made mountain biking a lot more fun than it ever was. And so the rewards there, the cost is very low. And I've actually never been hurt on a mountain bike. I would say the closest was probably when I was probably 12 and some kid crashed into me. I went over the bars, but no, it was just a scratch. So yeah, it's pretty low risk as long as you don't get hit by a car, but that's a different story. And because someone's going to notice the tire, yes, the tire is flat. I need to change the tube. It's been sitting in my garage for the last 2 months. I'll get to it. I'm a little busy these days. If you were going to pick one hobby that you wanted to entertain you for your lifetime, I would probably say this is the best one in that regard, and that's simply kayaking. The kayaking's a complicated topic, as once you get into kayaking, you realize that kayaking is a bunch of niches within niches within niches within niches. It's a bunch of, it itself is a niche, and then it's got so many micro niches that it just goes on forever. What is great about kayaking is that you can start off with flat water. You got your slow, lazy rivers, you know, the bayous we'll call them. You got your lakes, which can be interesting when it gets windy. You got the ocean, you know, you can go surfing. Then you get into the rivers, whitewater kayaking, and that's just a whole nother bunch of niches. And then you've got the whitewater parks. It offers a lot, but nobody talks about the cost that often. And so, honestly, of all the easy sports to get into, this one might be top of the expensive list, especially if you're someone who gets addicted to it, and then you just keep buying more boats, because there's a saying that every kayaker's got to have another boat. I myself think I have 5 or 6 boats. You start collecting them over the years, and anyway, so you go through a lot of them. What do you need to go kayaking though? Besides money, apparently. First you got to buy the kayak, and nowadays those run $1,500 for a good whitewater kayak. We're only going to talk about whitewater kayaking because, well, they're both similar. And move on. We'll move on first. What do you need? You know, gonna have to have a helmet. Gonna have to have a skirt. Gonna have to have a paddle, of course. No, don't forget that PFD. You're gonna need some shoes. You're gonna need a throw rope probably. You're gonna need some base layers because that water is probably 35 degrees. Don't forget a dry top or a wetsuit. I don't even know where my pants are at the moment. That's okay. And you know what? It's summertime. I'm gonna need some summer layers too. The point is, before you know it, you're one kayak and about $3,000 in the materials just to go. And then comes the next part. You got to find out who you're going to go with. And that can be a whole nother problem with networking. Kayakers don't tend to like to let people find them, and I'll leave some personal opinions aside. Anyways, So finding who to go with and who to go on what rivers and what time the rivers are right, because the rains are flowing and the flows are safe, because you don't want to go in a flood and you don't want to go when it's too bony, and there's a lot to navigate with kayaking. So the skill level is quite high. Not only do you have to know how to read rivers, you got to know how to paddle correctly, you got to know how to roll yourself or get out of your boat and rescue yourself, and you got to know how to get yourself out of a log if you get stuck in one. There's a lot to learn in kayaking, and that's why I like it and can recommend it for a lifelong hobby, because the fact is you can always be learning. I eventually fell into the playboating niche, and playboating is all about basically mastering a lot of paddle techniques to do fun stuff in flat water. You can have fun anywhere in a playboat. Creek boating is more about adrenaline. I'm always more of an adventure seeker, not an adrenaline seeker. There's a fine difference there. I like to explore places, not necessarily survive them. And so anyways, a lot of places you can go with kayaking. It's a never-ending sport, but like I said, the cost is high, the skill level to do it is high. Oh, I forgot one thing. Once you've bought all this stuff, you can actually use all this stuff. You got one more problem left, and that is you got to know how to haul. You got to be able to haul the stuff. So you got to go out and buy a bunch of expensive racks as well. And so I think cost of entry is a minimum $5,000. That still doesn't make it the most expensive sport hobby to get into. But yeah, it's high reward, high cost, high skill, medium risk. You know, people do die doing it, but in general it's pretty safe. I don't think you're going to have a lot of accidents. They do happen, but I think I led some 500 trips. On average, 10 people run every trip, and my biggest boo-boo somebody had is one guy kind of dislocated his finger once, and I think I lost a paddle once. Someone broke a paddle once. That's about as bad as it gets. But granted, I'm mostly running class 2, class 3 rivers. As guys get into class 3, class 4, class 5s, you start hearing about deaths and a lot of other problems. So other than that though, same thing. Keep it down the middle, intermediate stuff. Usually you'll go home safe, have a good time. And that's what I have to say about kayaking. You know, very, very comparable to kayaking, but just it's a different section of the river. You know, I gotta be honest, I can only bring the paddle. Rafting, I'm only bringing the paddle because that boat takes me like an hour to unbuckle and put away, and that's why I'm not going to bring it out for this. But I got a paddle, and that proves that I have a raft, at least in theory, or I just found a paddle. That doesn't matter. How is rafting different than kayaking? You can take a lot more friends with you rafting, and rafting only requires that one of you actually knows what they're doing. The rest can just be along for the show. The problem with rafting, though, is it's very high cost. You can buy a raft for $2,000, and you got to outfit that raft, and that outfitting is probably going to cost you another $2,000. And before you know it, you've bought a trailer to haul that raft with because you're tired of pumping the thing up. And anyways, rafting easily exceeds $5,000. $10,000 is not hard to hit, and then you still got to have a way to haul it, and you got to have a shuttle involved. And so you got to have at least 3 cars in some cases, or just some very responsible adults who can watch your boat while two of you go get. So your minimum 2 cars, but probably 3 if you have a family. And anyways, there's just. Rafting's great. You can't go on as many rivers in a raft as you can in a kayak, and that's why kayaking it's more fun for an individual than rafting is. Rafting is a family sport in my opinion. Kayaking is an individual sport. So anyways, I'll leave it at that. Okay, next up, the sport that everybody loves to hate, ATVs. I actually got into this probably when I was 5 years old. I mean, just playing on the farm. Doesn't really count. I didn't really get serious in the sport quads until I was 18 and had one I could play with. But the fact is, this is pretty darn expensive to get into, and they're expensive to haul. I mean, you got to have something to haul them in, so that means you either got to buy a truck or you got to have a trailer, or you ain't taking it anywhere. You could buy a used one for a few $1,000s, but I'm trying to keep all my costs comparable to new. And so your minimum $10,000 buy-in plus something to haul it with. So yeah, but the real elephant in the room here, are ATVs dangerous? This is a totally different topic. They can be, but I will say anything can be dangerous. In general, I've had a pretty good experience in ATVs. I've had a few whoopses, but realistically no one's been seriously hurt. I've probably dumped it on myself and rolled it over probably about 5 times now, and everyone was just something I could laugh about. Nothing high speed. The high speed crashes are where the accidents really happen, and especially the head-ons where you kind of go 40 miles an hour into somebody you didn't see and they're going 40 miles an hour into you, and let's just say it doesn't end well. But yeah, ATVs can be a lot of fun. You just got to really pick your poisons of where you're going to play. I kind of think they're a great toy for somebody who already understands danger, and so my personal taste is to go to places that aren't crowded to begin with and to take it easy. You know, once again, you're not out there to race, you're out there just to kind of enjoy the scenery, explore. And so go fast when it's safe to do so, but go slow when you need to. And that's kind of the mentality that's required for having fun on ATVs. But for the most part, I've had a good experience on ATVs. There's, in our area, there's a lot of ATV trails around here. We have to buy these permits every year, and the permits go to building more trails. And so for the last 30 years, they've been building trails. And so there's a good 10,000 miles of ATV trails in Oregon that you can explore. And honestly, I don't think I've even explored 1,000 of them yet, because there's that many. And so many places you can go, but it is expensive to get to. Skill level isn't really that high, I would say, because you don't have to know how to drive a clutch if you get an automatic one, which most of them are automatic now. And so you can get an ATVs pretty easily, and there's not a whole lot of skill involved with it. We'll say risk is high, though, just because it's not that hard to have an accident. Even if you're being careful, those accidents can still happen. So yeah, high cost to get into, high risk, low skill. And reward's pretty high, really. I mean, there's a lot of places you can go with an ATV that you can't go, even with a motorcycle, unless you got a dirt bike. That's a different debate, and that comes next. Okay, last one we're going to talk about. This really needs no introduction. I don't know why I even want to bring it into this, but of course, it's good old motorcycles. Now, granted, I just mentioned a little bit ago dirt bikes. This, of course, is a legal on-road motorcycle, and so dual sporting is another great activity that can be low cost to get into, and skills, I'll call it medium skill. If you've got some mountain biking skill or ATV skill, any kind of off-road skill, this can be a very easy skill to pick up because there's not much else to learn. And essentially the cost, I mean, you can get into this for less than $5,000 if you're being thrifty. I think my cost is probably closer to $9,000 because I've bought lots of riding gear, and you know, this milk crate probably cost me a good fortune and a half. I think I took a second mortgage on my house for that. But the point is that yes, motorcycles have a bad reputation. Of course, they are dangerous, and I would say that that's true. I mean, any crash can be a bad crash on a motorcycle. You never know when your number's up in that regard. But for the most part, you know, if you get your wits about you and take some good lessons, you can generally avoid those. But this will take you places that you can go, same as an ATV, you can go places that you could never go before in a car, in a Jeep. You can get there in one day, get back. It's fast. It's a great way, and it doesn't require a whole team. Like kayaking I mentioned earlier, you got to have a whole posse to go kayaking on a river because, frankly, you got to have a shuttle. It gets very difficult to shuttle yourself. You can do it on a kayak, rafting, etc. You can bicycle back and forth, but you got to leave your gear behind unattended, and someone's going to steal it. With a motorcycle with a dual sport, you can just ride out from home, go play, and come back in the same day. Worst case, you get a hotel room. This is an adventure anywhere you go. I mean, I can go around my neighborhood and just ride country farm roads. I had fun. I can go put it in a trailer and I can haul it across the country. I'll still have fun when I get there. It's a toy that goes anywhere. Is it the best toy? I'll say that's debatable, to be honest. They're actually, if you were going to buy one toy that was just going to do all the fun things in the world, one sport, motorcycles could be that for you. It is for a lot of guys, and so I will give it that thing. It's my second runner-up only because they aren't for everybody, and I think kayaking, for example, can be for everybody. But for, you know, this is, you know, it's high cost to get into, honestly. Medium skill. It's more skill than an ATV. Medium skill. It's not really a lesson. Hard to find lessons or anything, but you know, you usually learn motorcycling from the hard knocks. And but yeah, it's very rewarding. High reward, high cost. I'm gonna say high risk. It's a 333 there. But yeah, definitely my second pick, I would say, for the top sport, and it really just comes into preferences. Kayaking and motorcycling are both very rewarding for one sport to get into. But yeah, I don't really need to go into too much about that.